Hi, welcome everyone. Thank you for taking time out and joining us today for the webinar, The E-commerce Routes into Russia. I'm Louis Chen, Assistant Principal Economist at the HKTDC, and I will be your moderator today. As we are all very much aware, the COVID outbreak has seen many struggling businesses obliged to embrace e-commerce as their key sales channel in their home country, as well as into many target overseas markets. One destination that has clearly appealed to many is Russia, Europe's largest consumer market. With that very much in mind, our aim here today is to let our three distinguished experts, Mr. Timur Khamitov, Ms. Olga Kuznetsova, and Ms. Jenny Lam, help us navigate our way through the huge potential of Russia's fast-evolving economic and e-commerce landscape, while providing key insights into securing success in this uniquely challenging market. And before we go anything further, let me first introduce those experts a little bit more fully. First up, Timur is the head of Ozon's global division. His key role within Russia's fast-growing multi-category e-commerce platform has seen him take on particular responsibility for driving the company's commitment to enhance cross-border functionality, most notably with regards to international logistics and business development. Today, he is joined on our panel by one of his colleagues, Olga. As Ozon Global's business development manager, she has in-depth hands-on experience of running a digital marketplace with an active buyer base in excess of 11 million by bringing with her insights into the trends currently driving e-commerce as well as project management and analytics. Finally, we are also joined by one of my colleagues, Jenny Lam. Within the HKTDC research team, Jenny is the economist with overall responsibility for development in European and Central Asian markets. This sees her taking an overview of a wide variety of different sectors, including many of the products and services currently seen as the most sought after within the Russian market. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to all our speakers, and bear in mind that Timur and Olga are joining us via live streaming from Moscow. Should there be any technical issues, and fingers crossed there won't be, please bear with us. A few rules of engagement before we begin. Today's webinar will take the form of presentation by Timur, Olga, and Jenny. Should you have any questions, please key them into the question box on your GoToWebinar control panel. A Q&A section will then follow after the presentations. Let's begin proceedings by inviting Jenny to bring us up to speed on Russia's market prospects and how they are likely to have been impacted by the COVID-19 outbreaks. Jenny, over to you.
Thank you, Louis. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Yeah, let's show my screen first. So today I'm going to talk about the COVID-19 consequences and the market's prospects in Russia. For many of us, the past 12 months have seen us stay at home far more often, do more online shopping, and probably gain some weight, make us realize that we have to head to the gym just as soon as it reopens. So what we have experienced in Hong Kong throughout the course of the pandemic may have much in common with what was experienced in Russia. Of course, there was also going to be many differences. So what I hope to do today is to both highlight the shared trends and look at where the experiences diverged, with a view to consider how the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted the Russian market and how its future prospect looks like, particularly with regards to e-commerce. Okay, so according to the IMF last year, the world economy experienced the deepest recession since World War II, with the global GDP contracting by 3.5%. And it's against this backdrop that the Russian economy shrank by 3%, well, not the best performing country overall, but it certainly wasn't the worst. So to a large degree, this economic contraction could be attributed to the extremely stringent COVID-19 virus containment measures and the international travel restriction put in place. The economic output of transport and storage industry, for example, it accounted for 6.5% of the Russian economy, for instance, decreased by some 10% last year. And the hotel and catering industry, meanwhile, it only accounts for less than 1% of the Russian economy. It recorded the deepest decline in the output as a whole, a negative 25%. And if we turn to the quarter-on-quarter data, the second quarter was clearly the worst, I guess the same with the rest of the world. And the Russia's hotel and catering industry declined by 43%. And we can see that that's largely on account of the extremely harsh economic lockdown imposed since April 2020. So in Moscow, for example, this saw all business shut except for those deemed to be essential. So like restaurants, cafes, museums, libraries, gyms, hairdressers, you name it, it was all closed to Russian consumers. And in order to even enforce the lockdown, the mobile phone data was used to track the movement of people. With anyone, if they are not complying with the containment protocols, they may receive a message from the government. And it is because of this that the streets in Russia was often abandoned, and you can only see maybe people venturing out to buy necessities. Apart from the consequences of this extreme social distancing policy, the Russian economy also suffered on account of a fall in demand for oil and the subsequent drop in oil prices. And in fact, I still remember in the 20th of April, it was last year, was the first day ever when a negative price for oil was recorded. And this sudden drop in the oil demand was, of course, caused by the decreasing number of international flights and also the temporary shutdown in some manufacturing plants. And we also come to realize that the storage of oil itself is a costly activity. So these all activities all push down the oil price. And so all in all, this decline in oil price and some declining demand, it also leads to the output of Russia's extractive industry to fall by maybe 10% last year. And moving on to this year now, the Russian economy is thankfully expecting to be grown by 3.8%. And in line with this, actually, Russia's most recent PMI index also showed signs of recovery. So you can see on the chart, there's the latest April's PMI index. So the new business rose at its steepest rate since August 2020. And there was report of an increased domestic demand and foreign clients' demand. The country's service sector, it has also seen a rise in employment. So here you can see the unemployment rate. It was declining from the 6.4% in August 2020 to in March this year, it was only 5.4% unemployment rate. So we can probably say that a lower unemployment rate, of course, is expected to help pave the way for a wider recovery of the country's consumer market. And in the case for cross-border e-commerce players like us, however, we also need to factor in the impact of the exchange rate. So at present, it can be seen that the value of rubles against the US dollar have declined by some 17% when compared with its pre-pandemic peak in early 2020. And in the same time, the Russia's market overall is also seeing some rising inflation. So take this all together, the expectation would be that the Russian consumer market will remain resilient, but also a bit price sensitive. And the economic recovery that was evident earlier this year was underpinned at least partly by the rapid deployment of the COVID-19 vaccination throughout Russia. So since early this year, they have pushed ahead with its vaccination program using the Sputnik V, its domestically produced vaccine. So the photo on the left was taken in January, and it shows a cloud of people queuing for their shots at the GUM department store in Russia. So the vaccines were free and no appointments was needed, and everyone receiving the vaccine can also even get a complimentary chocolate ice cream. So today, right now, about 14 million Russians, about 10% of their country's population have received their first dose of the vaccine. So since the vaccination program began, it's clear that the number of the new COVID cases in Russia has been decreasing. You can see it decreased from the peak of some 30,000 daily incidents in December last year, and is now less than some 10,000 new cases a day. So assuming there are no significant additional waves of the virus, or there's no any dangerous new variants, we can probably be pretty confident to say that the Russian economy should be on course to grow by 3.8% for this year as a whole. And as the level of domestic vaccination rise in Russia, among the most anticipated area of recovery, of course, is tourism, both locally and internationally. So according to a national survey, more than half of all Russians would be keen to engage in domestic tourism when the opportunity arises. So and the heightened tourism flows between Russia and also other countries can also be anticipated just as soon as the borders reopens. Just last month, the Russian government relaxed the entry requirements for visitors from some 30 countries, including the UK, Germany, Singapore, and South Korea. So the finance and insurance sector was actually a bright spot in the Russian economy last year. It accounted for some 5% of the Russia GDP, and it grew by more than 7%. And when we try to find out what the reason behind, it was that the electronic payment service and e-commerce payments was the key driving forces. So a case in point here, I get it, is the Tinkoff Group. It's actually Russia's leading online payments company. And in 2020, they have gained more customers for their Tinkoff Black credit card, which in turn generated more than 40% of revenue for the group. And building on the momentum, they are also launching the first buy now, pay later service for e-commerce purchases last month. And another great example is Ozon. Is of course a major e-commerce platform in Russia, and they also saw their branded debit card acquired much more active users during the pandemic. So moving out of the pandemic, we could see that Russian customers are embracing digitalization and increasingly engaged in e-commerce. So focusing now on the Russia's e-commerce market, how did it perform in 2020? Well, the market turnover increased by more than 50%. It's reaching 3.2 trillion rubles last year. And the latest statistics in January and February, it also showed a year-on-year increase of some 44%. So based on this, it's expected that the Russia e-commerce market will continue to expand, while at a slower pace. And in terms of the most in-demand product categories, you can see here that electronics and household appliances top the list in 2020. And next, maybe we can consider, I'm going to talk about the three most observable changes in lifestyle that have driven the growth of e-commerce demand for these products. So firstly, there's a rise of digital generation. So like any parts of the world, I guess this is probably the same. The young people, when they stay at home, they will spend more and more time online. So does Russian. They also have a very diverse digital interest, like watching films, playing video games, and reading books online. So what's the impact on products? This actually, in the world of gaming, it is generating a lot of demand in some like sophisticated desktop and laptops. These laptops, like they are tailored to improve the gaming experience, and Russian market, they're also attracted by these devices. So as a consequence, within the Russian market overall, the high-end gaming laptops, they also remain the best sellers. And as a second factor, young people in Russia, they're also very independent. And during the pandemic, they are also they can choose to live exactly where they want to. And this is because a lot of Russia companies, they actually also pursue like work from home arrangements, especially those in the finance, insurance, and ICT sectors. So when people are able to work from home, obviously they can, the young Russian people, they would be able to live closer to the home city if they prefer. So in general, the Russia's housing market found itself in an upward trend across many major cities and even suburban areas last year. And even the Russia government, they have been very supportive of young people, especially those with children. So for example, they have allowances for the first 2 children born in such family. So all in all, it can be expected that work from home will be more popular and the supportive family policies will continue in the post-COVID economy. And this will continue to drive the demand for household products and household electronics. So thirdly, the third factor would be to consider the domestic sporting culture. And I think it's really fair to say that the love of sports is very deeply rooted in the Russia's DNA. And after all, here, actually, I collected this data from local survey companies. They say that like more than half of the Russians believe that more attention should be paid to mass sporting. And they even want their children to be professional athletes. So, and also more than 60% of Russians, they would pay attention to the sports-related information. And this strong appetite for sports, I think, which persisted throughout the pandemic, it would translate into a strong sales for sporting goods across many e-commerce platforms. And it's important to mention here that I'm talking about not only like sports equipment and accessories, but also like sports appeals and sports shoes. So an example here is that the Russia's sporting brand, Sportsmaster, is a very large sports goods retailer, and they reported a massive 1,000 year-on-year online sales growth last year. And another bright spot here would be online streaming. Like the sport tracks here shown here, there's a local sports startup in Russia, and they even want to export this sports streaming service to other parts of the world. And so to the final slide of my presentation, and maybe just summarize a bit of the takeaways. Most notably, I do believe that there is a growing e-commerce opportunity in Russia, especially like we mentioned, the consumer electronics, the household products, the home appliances, and also like sports fashion and other sporting goods. And if you sell these products to Russia through e-commerce, it will guarantee a better access to these huge countries' consumer markets. And as a final thought, it's worth bearing in mind that e-commerce logistics in Russia has matured enormously during the course of the pandemic. And a further network of pickup points, for instance, have made the last mile delivery far more straightforward right now. You can see from the map, there are some like more than 10,000 pickup points serving not only the big cities like Moscow or St. Petersburg, but also many small cities and rural areas throughout Russia. So as a result, I would suggest that if you partner with a major local e-commerce platform, you will have the kind of access to this 145 million people market that once you may only have been dreamed of. So that's it for my presentation today. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Jenny. I would have to say your red square photos are really shocking. But luckily, we also have good news regarding the famous department store giving out free signature popsicles. to people taking vaccines there. Well, from what you just said, it's clear that the sizable Russian market is a promising one for Hong Kong exporters. The question now, of course, is how to best assess it. Hopefully, able to enlighten us here is Mr. Timur Khamitov. Timur, in your opinion, what is the most effective way for Hong Kong exporters to make inroads into the Russian market, which is not an easy market, okay, and with 11 time zones to conquer? Is this something Ozon can help with? Over to you, Timur.
Yes. Is my microphone on? Yes, thank you. I think cross-border is a great way for foreign sellers to explore the potential of huge e-commerce growth that happened in Russia over the last couple of years. And using cross-border sales, the sellers can try the market, can explore the opportunity there, can assess potential buyers interested in certain products, and it can help to develop a lot of inroads into the market, finding distributors, buying B2B buyers, and many other opportunities. Ozon, one of the biggest e-commerce players in the market, and we already provide such opportunities for foreign sellers, for sellers from Hong Kong, from Korea, from Japan, from Europe, from all over the world. And we're going to expand this offering. Can I start showing my slides? Okay, let me start. I'll give you a brief overview about Ozon, about Russian e-commerce market potential and what happened with it over the last year, and tell you briefly about Ozon Global, terms of cooperation that usually sellers have, and we'll share a brief success story. About Ozon. Ozon is a Nasdaq listed company. Actually, it's the only one e-commerce player in Russia which is Nasdaq listed, which gives us a lot of opportunities for further developing our business. Ozon is the #1 multi-category player in Russian e-commerce. So we're the leaders, and #1 brands recognized in e-commerce. So we have buyers which like our brand, which like buying from Ozon, and when we're offering cross-border sellers to our buyers, they trust our opinion and they buy stuff. We're also top 5 most valuable Russian internet company by Forbes, and that's gives us a lot of opportunities. Ozon was established in 1998, and since then it became a leading Russian player in e-commerce. At the moment, we have over 10 million SKUs in 24 product categories and over 70 million customers orders per year. And this is actually last year data. Right now, we grew even more. What are our strategy and key growth drivers? Of course, it's increase of buyer base and loyalty. We're creating ecosystem which keeps the buyers on our platform, on our website, and we inspire buyers to buy more. We're also working on bringing more sellers, and cross-border is a great opportunity for bringing new interesting companies with a unique assortment to the platform. We're also expanding our logistics footprint. As was mentioned before, the logistics developed tremendously over last year, and right now the last mile in Russia is very well developed. Ozon has its own branded logistics points in Russia, and which are located almost near every like household in the country. So it's very convenient for buyers to buy via Ozon and get their the items that they bought through our logistics. We're also building a diversified platform, incorporating fintech services and a lot of other stuff in our platform. And we're also leveraging our growing scale and increasing efficiency. Right now, Ozon is, let me say that like 100%, almost 100% of deliveries are happening on time, and this increases our credibility with the customers. Ozon platform at a glance in Q4 2020. So we grew by almost 150% in Q4 in terms of GMV, in terms of orders. Also, we increased, we almost doubled our assortment and now increasing it even further. And the marketplace is over, marketplace share in our GMV is over 50%. So we know how to work with sellers, and we are increasing the share of the marketplace. So this is a brief overview of GMV acceleration of the company. So over the last 2 years, we more than doubled, and we planning to keep growing this year and years forward. Let me share some information about Russian e-commerce market potential. Russian e-commerce market is large, actually attractive, and right now we still a low penetration. It's still under-penetrated. As you can see, the market penetration, e-commerce penetration is still 9%, which is far lower than in many other countries, and we're believing in this growth to kind of continue towards other markets, especially with the current pandemic situation. And also, it's still highly fragmented. It's only top 3 domestic players share is only 24%, and we expect our share to grow and more consolidation happening into play. We're focused on scale and leadership in under-penetrated market. To do this, to enable this growth, we scale our logistics and IT infrastructure. As you can see, we grew our fulfillment footprint more than 4 times and increased number of orders that we handle almost 10 times. And we're also working on improving the profitability of the business. About Ozon Global. Ozon Global was launched in year 2020, and right now is the essential part of Ozon business. And this year we are planning expand it further and grow it more. How Ozon Global works with Fulfilled by Seller. Fulfilled by Seller is a way for sellers to manage their logistics, shipping goods abroad. It allows sellers to add their own warehouse and shipping method through a seller account. So how this works, seller creates account on Ozon, he lists items on Ozon, and whenever Ozon buyer buys item on Ozon from the seller ships this item to Russia, to the buyer. In this case, the sale happening on B2C scheme, and there are few advantages of this scheme. There is no VAT on such sales in Russia, so it's cheaper for the buyer, and also for advantages for the seller that there is no Russian specific certification needed, and no need of moving a huge stock of the items which you don't know whether will be sold or not to the country. So all the stock stays inside the country of the seller, and whenever buyers buy, the seller ships this item to the customer. In terms of cooperation, we are offering, we pay to sellers 2 times a month on the shipped items. We keep a commission. Commission depends on the product category. We provide support to both sellers and the buyers, and for bigger sellers, we provide a dedicated key accounts manager. In logistics, we help to establish, to choose the right logistics and support seller on a whole journey with Ozon. That's just example of commission. Legal framework right now for any import happening which comes on from seller to buyer, there is a 200 euro limit. If the parcel goes above this limit, then there is a 15% import tax paid by customer, and this 50% applied only to kind of the sum which exceeds 200 euro limit. And just an example of a success story from the seller. The seller started selling on Ozon in March, and since then it first tested the platforms and found in August it found the right category of items which he was selling good, which was electronics, and since then it was gradually increasing the volume of sales. The only limit for the seller was the cash, because he was trying to find investor, and once he found investor, he increased volume to 40 million rubles. So that's all the presentation. Here is my email, and I believe I will share afterwards more contacts, so you can reach out to our manager or to me directly to discuss potential questions and potential opportunities for collaboration sales on the platform. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Timur. Spasiba.